Der dritte Tag auf dem Comic-Salon in Erlangen. Hier ist eine Menge los. Hier sind ganz, ganz viele tolle Stände, Künstler, Verlage versammelt. Und ich habe heute die große Ehre, mit John Bolton zu sprechen am Splitterstand. John, it's a pleasure to meet you. Hello.
Thank you very much. Good morning. How are you?
Well, I didn't sleep enough, but apart from this, I think
At a convention, you're working all day. Well, I was working all day yesterday, and by the time you get home, you're still thinking about things that you have to do. So you wake up early. So I'm not getting enough sleep either. But you know, I'll sleep when I go home.
Absolutely, and it's worth it. So nobody wants to miss a thing here.
Absolutely. I think, I mean, that's why I'm here. I mean, for two reasons too. Obviously, to promote Shame. I've been to Erlangen before. It's a beautiful city. It's just fantastic to walk around. It's very people friendly. So it's important for me to meet people who has collected my work over the years, especially as a lot of my work has been printed in Germany over the years. So there are fans who have picked up the English editions and the German editions, and it's nice to meet those people. They're very respectful. They almost apologize that they want an illustration, but you know, I'm more than happy to do sketches for them.
And it's great that you do, because your artwork is stunning. I had the joy to read Shame, and you also there was recently released Marauder the She-Wolf in German at Alpha Verlag, I think.
Yeah, I think it's the first time that Marauder has been collected completely. I think there's one page missing, but aside from that, all the books which were spread out over the copies of various issues of Epic are now in one place, and that's actually quite interesting to see that for me as well. And also the style has been consistent. It's all, you know, I'm happy with all of it.
I think that's a great thing when you're releasing a series and when you're working on a project and you finally reach that stadium where there's a whole hardcover volume released that really lives up to the whole story. I think this is a very satisfying part about it.
Yes, because then you're actually reading something the way that it was painted and drawn from beginning to end. Exactly. And it's a really, you know, it's fantastic to see it collected. Yeah.
Beautiful king-size hardcover, with featuring beautiful artwork by you and renowned writer Chris Claremont, who also did the most famous X-Men run ever.
Of course, yes. And it was thanks to Chris that I'd also worked on classic X-Men, because when they reprinted the X-Men series, they were 12 pages short for a comic. So, and Chris, there are always things that Chris wanted to write about, you know, the incident that leads up to a situation, or and this gave him the opportunity to do exactly that, to come up with a 12-page story that he thought was missing in the bulk of the story. And because we'd worked on Marauder together, he said, "Why don't you work with me?" And we did. It was brilliant. Really enjoyed it. We did that for maybe 18 months.
Yeah, and the final product is really a very enjoyable book.
You're too kind.
Still, we're here at the Splitter booth, and they released, I think it's the first German release of Shame.
Yes.
And it is a graphic novel that originally was released by
it was released by a Canadian.
Yeah.
I'll explain something about what happened with Shame. The writer, Laverne, I met Laverne in San Diego many years ago, and he said he had this story that he really wanted me to read and to work on with him. And I read the story and I thought, this is fantastic, I want to do this. And I was so desperate to do it that I started breaking it down. I was so confident I would get a publisher. I started breaking it down. I even did a painting and a black and white illustration to promote it. just so that we could take it around various publishers. In spite of the fact that I knew everybody and I'd never had to do this before, and we couldn't find a publisher. It was very strange. Anyway, 15 years later, 15, he contacts me to tell me that he's found a publisher. And the publisher we have now is brilliant. His name is Alexander Fimbo. It's Renegade Comics. And I don't particularly like to use the word destiny, but in a way it seems applicable because it's the perfect writer, the perfect editor and publisher, the same guy. And I'm not bad either. So between the three of us, I think it's worked out to be a brilliant team. And once I started working on it, I realized I wanted to go back to working in watercolor because to me it seemed the most appropriate technique. Before that, I'd been working I worked in everything from oils to acrylic to pastel to color pencils, whatever I felt was appropriate for the comic, the book. And it took me 3 weeks to a month to find the right paper. Because what happens, I start on, when I get a script, I start on breaking it down like this.
Yeah.
And these are my initial thoughts. And from there I may work up an illustration, and that illustration is then used for the final page. So it's just a way that I've perfected working, if you like.
Absolutely. Just for you to know, we'll just have a look at it right now.
Yeah, of course.
And afterwards, I'm going to take the camera, and you're going to browse through it, and we'll take a shot of that,
okay,
so we don't have the camera as distraction
right
here. I'll cut this later.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking I'd show you now. But anyway, yes.
And before we get back into the interview, these are your sketches of
from the original script.
From the original Shame script.
I get the script, I go through the script, and there's a process that you have to go through where you concentrate more on interpreting the script than you do the story. It's a funny situation. So once I've done this, I then reread the story and see if I've missed any nuance or what atmosphere I want to create. And then from there, I rarely deviate from these pages. And while I'm doing this, I'm also thinking about color, style, because again, when you see this, there's different styles to tell that part of the story. But ultimately, it's all done by me, so there is the continuity there. It's not jarring. I mean, for instance, I started the next trilogy. I really enjoy the project so much. And in the next trilogy, there's a flashback within a flashback and a flashback. So you have to come up with 3 different styles rather than just go straight to sepia and very heavy, thick lines. I've established a color palette and then go to black and white for the next flashback. So that's what I mean about when I'm working. This is the thought process that goes through my head.
I'm really looking forward to this new trilogy, and it was some of the things I found most remarkable about Shame was this beautifully painted story of shame and virtue. But when evil comes to the story, it looks very twisted and dark, and you have the sharp outlines, and it's like two worlds cut together. And I like the idea that you're taking this idea even further.
So you didn't find it jarring that suddenly? The thing is, everything I do is intuitive. It's not meant for anybody else in a way. When I finish a piece of artwork and it leaves the house, I may have repainted frames or torn up a page here and there or whatever, just because I'm trying to create, for me, something perfect. And I'm glad I did. Watercolor is a very difficult medium. It's not like oils where you can take the paint off with terps or acrylic. When it dries very fast, so you put more and more layers on if you've made a mistake. With watercolor, you cannot make a mistake. There's a famous artist in Australia, Norman Lindsay. He died many years ago. And I read an interview and he said, when you use watercolor, if you're interrupted when you use watercolor, it's legitimate for you to shoot that person. And that's probably what I'd like to do sometimes if the phone rings or what, and you're doing a very delicate, because with watercolor it runs into each other.
Yeah.
And if you don't channel it correctly, it's not the effect that you want.
Absolutely.
Anyway, it's a bit boring and technical. But anyway, carry on.
No, I don't think it's boring at all. I think this is very interesting. And your style and how everything is built up is something that an interview should give you a hint about, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite happy to talk about that technique. I think because the end result, it's proven to be the right choice. It could have been anything, but with using watercolor, I feel that I'm really happy with the end result.
But still, let's also talk about the story itself. That is not less remarkable and contains a lot of symbolism. So
yes.
a lot of things you did were dark fantasy works.
Yes.
And a lot of them have very, very sexy and intriguing heroines or also villains, all female, mainly female. And but none of them are victims or are sexualized. Well, it's a very aesthetic way of establishing that look.
Exactly. That's always been very important to me. I haven't wanted to do a female with massive, body bits.
I think everybody knows what we're talking about. We all also read American superhero comics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I guess what I'm looking for is a more realistic result, and more. What we found interesting when I went to Canada to do a signing, the amount of women that came up and said how much they loved the story, and that to me is really important. That what I'm producing doesn't alienate anybody.
Yeah.
If they love the story, that's brilliant. I mean, there was one girl that came up and she didn't know who I was. She'd never seen the book before. And my wife convinced her to buy it because of it. There's something like a 70% female readership to this book, which is astonishing.
Absolutely.
Which is also very important to me, as I said. And she told this girl, buy the first book, read it. If you like it, come back and buy the other two, because at that point it was done in 3 separate graphic novels. And she came back the next day and bought all of the books, which is really, I guess, an example of what should happen with this book. That it's different here, obviously, because I mean you're investing in, a one-off and not buying individual issues. So I was really pleased.
I think this is what is so beautiful about this collected edition here at Splitter. That is, like you told before, this is a story that was meant to be read in one sitting. And I read a lot of comic books, and this is one that I didn't put away before I was done, because it's really dense. It really sucks you into its world.
Absolutely. So you can understand why I was sucked into the first issue.
Yeah.
And even when I get the script from Laverne and I, we've met up a couple of times and we've talked about what direction we would like to go in. I've suggested things, and Laverne's gone away and he maybe taken part of that and come back with something completely different, but better, that says everything that I want to say, but in his style. And so you end up with, this one, the fourth book, this first one of the second trilogy, is actually quite violent, which I wasn't expecting. Whereas I think the first series is almost theatrical. There is, you could almost see it on stage if you like.
Yeah.
Because the interaction between the characters, it's about dialogue and it's about body language. So this then goes in a slightly different direction, but we still have all those characters. Well, I'll wait.
You're currently developing this?
Yes. I'm the first book. I've done 20 pages for the first book, and this is the first and second book breakdowns. So I'm up to sort of this page. I'm really enjoying it. You have to remember that when you sit down to draw a graphic novel, the time investment, you have to really enjoy what you're doing. Otherwise, it will show in your work. If you're bored doing what you're drawing, you cut corners. And I've gone the other way. I find it impossible to cut any corners. Everything is as perfect as I can make it.
And you can feel this as a reader. I think this is
okay.
This is when everything is done right.
How did you discover Shane?
Basically by Splitter's catalog.
Right,
so
okay.
I regularly browse the catalog because I know they did a lot of strictly European releases.
Right.
Back in the first days, and in the last years they tried to include a lot of American and English material as well,
right.
Independent. And this is where I come from, what I read first, so I'm especially looking for these titles, and I think you're good here with these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've all been fantastic. You know, they've looked after us, me and my wife, and you know, we have no complaints yet. I'm here for another day. Anything could happen. But
still, I'm very happy that you still have none after this interview. That I really thank you for. It was a pleasure and an honor.
Thank you very much.
Again, for everyone who has not read it, Shame, der komplette erste Zyklus bei Splitter erhältlich in einem schönen Hardcover. Marada, The She-Wolf, die Wölfin im Al-Verlag. Solltet ihr wirklich einen Blick drauf werfen. Vielen Dank, John Bolton.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed it.